days. So I approached you and I messaged you and I asked you about what are the questions that I asked in your company, right? And you were kind enough at that point that you told me about what is the pattern of interview and what kind of questions are basically asked.
Yeah.
So today I'm sitting here with you and I feel good about it because the person who I look up to, like who is, I feel that you know, like the things that I don't. So I want to learn some things from you.
Okay.
So would you like to give a brief intro about yourself, because I don't know the audience to know you or not, but I want them to know you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Bhagat. I am basically from New Delhi, but currently I stay in Bangalore. I work at PhonePe, which is digitalizing payments across India. If you've ever paid through a QR code, I might have had a hand in that. Plus, if you've ever ordered food from Zomato, I also might have had a hand in that because I've also worked at Zomato for a year. In my past time, I contribute at ravendlake.com in their books and their articles.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really nice to be here with you.
Okay, and same here, Bhagat, and you just told you about what you do basically and in which all fields you are involved currently, right? But I would like to know more about you, like from where did you start your technical journey?
Okay.
And in technical, I would say more technical in iOS specifically,
Okay.
not any other field. So from where did it all started, and how did you land up your first job in iOS? And what were your plans at that point of time, and what are you doing now?
Okay. So my plans from the start have always been clear that I want to code. They were not very clear that what I want to code in, but when I landed into college, I was given a very ripe piece of story that do competitive programming and you'll have X amount in your bank account every month.
Okay.
I fell into that trap, supposedly. Worked hard for that, but I didn't find that learning curve, you can say, or the results were not as much I was expecting from the effort I was putting in. So I switched back, circled back. There was some Android boot camps running in Delhi at that time by the Google Developers Group.
Okay.
I went into that. Firstly, I went in there only because of free pizza. Because as a college student, you can't expect more from me. But
That's nice.
Gradually, I started getting an interest in that. Basically, because I could see what I was building every weekend on weekend. I could see, okay, I placed a button. Okay, it goes to a new screen or whatever.
Right.
The problem with Android was that it was basically everywhere that time. Couldn't find a niche. Like if I would throw a stone in my college, it would land on an Android developer. So
No offense.
obviously no offense. But yeah, that was the case. Wanted to get into a niche. Right. So luckily I had a MacBook, and Apple announced Swift that year.
Okay.
I totally placed that on my luck.
Can you throw some more light on the years along with the story? Like, when you,
Okay.
yeah.
So the first year was that competitive programming thing. I
Okay.
think it was that. I was not growing. I was just blindly looking for solutions to problems I couldn't solve, hoping that I will learn this algorithm one day. But I was not doing that. I was just copying other people's code.
That's what happens in the very beginning, I guess.
Sorry?
That is what happens generally in the very beginning of any development career.
I was able to solve the basic two problems.
Okay.
The first two problems of any long running contest, but not beyond that.
Okay.
So, then when Apple got down with Swift, right before that was the Android thing.
Okay.
So I think for about 6 months that ran. Then I started accumulating my interest in mobile, basically, not anything specific. Then when Apple announced Swift, I was very eager to try it. because Objective-C seemed horrendous.
Yeah.
Is horrendous. No offense. So went into Swift, liked it.
Right.
Liked storyboards, loved storyboards.
Okay.
It was just a magical piece of drawing board in which you can just drag and drop stuff and it appears in your phone.
Right.
So loved that. And also as a college student, I was like, I can make and show iOS apps to people. So that was another cool thing. Luckily, I had a MacBook. It was, I think, my second year of college where all of this is happening. Then when I got an interest, I just put day and night into making an app. Whatever smallest open API I was finding, air quality index or whatever, BMI indexes, weather. I made at least 16 weather apps.
Okay.
Just for passing my time.
Right.
I was doing the same stuff, but I was learning, so it didn't bother me that I'm doing the same thing. Then what happened was, my seniors were going in for placements.
Okay.
And me and my friends, a group of friends, had a special bond with our seniors. They were the ones who inculcated any sort of programming knowledge / habits in us.
Okay.
Like, you should code, you should do this, you should do that.
They gave you a kind of direction.
Correct. Yes. So they were going in for placements. One of them got into Zomato,
Okay.
to which I reacted like, okay, and I asked him if Zomato was hiring. He was kind enough to forward my resume to Zomato,
Okay.
who at that time were looking for iOS developers because of they were shipping a new app. They
Okay.
were short on hands, so they needed more people. Because I was in college, I had an internship opportunity rather than a full placement offer
Okay.
at that point. Then at Zomato, I think it was the easiest interview of all time. I don't know why. Maybe the interviewer was too happy or he was in a hurry.
Okay.
But it was just like he looked at my GitHub. And I think it is because of that. He looked at my GitHub. He was assured that I can make apps. He asked me a question. I think I solved it pretty gracefully, you can say.
Okay.
And yeah, that's it. I was in Zomato for 2 months, starting with 2 months, on an internship period of 2 months. I asked the other intern what was he asked in his interview.
Okay.
So he had a completely opposite, different story. He was told to make the order tracking screen
Oh.
like there itself in 8 hours.
So for you, it was like a cakewalk.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
you can say,
yeah.
if you agree.
Yes.
And the other guy with
Yeah.
whom you were talking, for him it was a completely different scenario.
Completely different scenario because he was given the order track screen, which I think by far is the most difficult screen to make at Zomato. So yeah, he built that. So yeah, I joined Zomato, had my 2 months of internship period.
Okay.
Half of it was damaged due to my exams coming up. The worst
Okay.
part of being in college and interning side by side. I got an extension of another month. Then I was offered a pre-placement offer, which would enable me to come back after my college and join as a full-time iOS engineer. Then I just enjoyed life for the rest of my college because I had the only thing which other college students didn't have, which was money in my account.
Right. And before, Bhagat, I would like to cut you short here.
Yeah.
We can just make it a timestamp and we can move ahead
Yeah.
with this story. But I have some questions related to what has happened so far according to your beginning story, right? So, a lot of people on my YouTube also ask me about how they can start learning iOS, specifically the Indian students.
Okay.
So, you told me that you already had a MacBook right when you started
Right.
learning Swift and other things in iOS. But what about others who maybe don't have the MacBook at the first place,
Okay.
and they want to learn something in iOS, not something, they just want to become iOS developer. So how can they approach that thing? What would be your approach if I ask you?
Okay. So if I didn't have a MacBook, I would just buy a laptop which is powerful enough to run some VM kind of to bridge that gap.
Okay.
Otherwise, it is a very difficult and time-consuming process to do that. I had a bootcamp student who used to TeamViewer in somebody else's laptop just to learn iOS.
Oh, nice.
He used to stay in Nepal,
Okay.
so he didn't have a MacBook. He used to TeamViewer into somebody else's MacBook, and he used to learn iOS that
Well,
way.
that's so inspirational.
So that like people go to these extents
Right.
to do that. So if I think nowadays MacBooks are obviously getting cheaper.
Right.
Plus you get AirPods along with
Student
it.
discounts.
So yeah, so it's better to spend that money on a MacBook rather than go that VM route. That is way too cumbersome to deal with.
I think we can also go for a second-hand MacBook in the very
that
beginning.
makes sense.
And
Yes.
once you have learned all the things, you may
Mhm.
get a paid internship or
Right.
something like that, and you can pay for your new MacBook yourself.
Right. Like that can also work. Plus, once you're because as I can tell with my experience, I was never, sitting on one thing at a time. I was just jumping here and there. Once you get your focused fixed right,
Mhm.
then it makes sense to invest that amount of money. I just
Yes.
happen to have a MacBook, but that in no way determined what I did. Even like I tried three, four
Right.
things before I
Going
was
for iOS.
right. So yeah, I would suggest that.
I think that I would completely agree with that point that if you are buying a MacBook in the first place and if you're not determined enough to become an
yes.
iOS developer, then it would be a waste of money.
It becomes really hard to justify the cost of that MacBook if you don't want to. If you're not buying it with your own money or if you don't want to just code only.
Right.
So
I even remember my time when I was asking my parents
Hmm.
to get me a MacBook when I just started learning iOS in college.
Right.
So they were also not sure about it at
Right.
that point of time, and I had no
Hmm.
reasoning for that. But somehow I convinced, and
Right.
they agreed to that.
Right.
And today I can see that I made a good decision at that point of time. But it was a 50-50 situation. Maybe after buying that MacBook and 6 months down the line, maybe I got interested into web development
Right.
and things could
Till
have.
the point I got my internship, I wasn't even serious about it. It was just that I'm doing something
Right.
rather than just coming to college, going classes, and all of that. I'm just making some projects, building portfolio and stuff like that. So,
And you also talked about having a good relationship with your seniors, right? So, how should people, or you can say students, can manage to do that? Because I see in my college, there were some batches who had some interactions, but there were some batches also who are not, aware about themselves, not about themselves, about their other peers who are in the maybe senior batch or their
Right.
junior batch. So, what would you recommend to those students how they can manage to network to their seniors or maybe their juniors?
Right.
Why is it important?
Right. So, my college had this technical society thing. Okay. And the first thought was I want to be a part of it. They had their own process. We went through, everybody goes through, I guess. They don't turn anybody back, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good thing. But I think every college at any point of time, at any level, has a working group of students who advertise themselves as technical society or
Okay.
geek society
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
Okay. So I think if you're new to college, your first point would be to just go blindly to one or many of these sessions.
Right.
Okay. You will find at least one person who's serious about what he's talking. Right.
True.
At least one person. Even if it is one person, you just directly go and ask him what you do, what you don't, stuff like that. How do I proceed? Because at any point in time, that person will have more knowledge than you.
True.
About what the college situation is. I can say this safely that every college in India is not guaranteed / apparently will give you one placement, right?
True.
So that college senior would know better at any point. Right. So just ask him, just face the truth. If the colleges are, if any companies are not coming to your college, don't be disheartened.
Right.
Just do whatever you want to, kind of, and you can always go for an off-campus. Right now, I don't think any of the companies look badly towards like this is a third-tier college candidate or second-tier.
They only look out for the skills.
Yeah, exactly. So just build a skill set, market yourself, and it will be good.
You said market yourself. How can somebody market themselves?
So by marketing oneself, I don't mean put posts on LinkedIn. I'm very anti posts like hello connections. I've made this tutorial. I'm very anti of that.
Okay.
Because LinkedIn might not
be the right place.
Be the right place for that. LinkedIn is becoming more of a Facebook. Slowly.
Yeah.
But like the best thing you can do is put up a GitHub link or whatever and a small video. That might work. But writing paragraphs about it is not cool. I'm very opinionated, please. You can do that. You can make your website.
Right.
You can build a very solid GitHub page.
Right.
You can build a very solid resume. You can do all of that stuff. You can just cold email every single person that you see on LinkedIn. I don't find the CEO, even the CEO of Google, hard to email.
Right.
You should just email every single person out there. If you are looking for a specific job, I don't mean to email everybody.
Right.
I just mean if you're looking, for example, job opportunities are at Apple.
Okay.
You should just cold email technical recruiters, not everybody.
Not just the engineers.
Yes, not the engineers. Just cold email the technical recruiters. Hi, I'm looking out and all of that. I saw this posting and all of that. So, yeah.
That's really interesting because some days before I was looking for a person on LinkedIn just because I wanted to know more about a certain role which intrigued me.
Right.
So I just looked out for his profile, his or her profile, and I just messaged her with a connection request. And I believe she will accept it because if you write a clear-cut message with a kind approach,
right,
then the other person responds.
Correct.
Like when I first messaged you on LinkedIn, what do you think about that? How was that? Like, was it rude to ask you something, or was it like smooth enough to consume? Like, yes, this person wants to know something, so I should reply to him.
Okay, so
because I didn't know you at that point of time, right?
Right.
You were completely a new person for me. Still, I messaged you. So,
I think it depends on people as well who are receiving the message as well as who are sending the message. The first thing is people waste a lot of time in highs and hellos, right?
So people are like, this is right, hi.
Yes.
And they're done.
I will not reply to any hi. Okay.
Right.
So that is a very big turn off. Don't do that.
Right.
Just come straight to the point. Like, I saw that you work here. Can you please explain me this? This is a very good cold email message, whatever template that anyone can follow.
Right.
If people are stuck in high, so they will be stuck there forever.
Right. And they will never get to know that why they are not getting the response.
Firstly, because I am not your friend.
True.
Like, I am not everybody's friend. Just because I accepted your request doesn't mean I'm your friend.
That's true.
Second point is that just come straight to the point. If you want this, I can help you. If I'm not able to help you, I'll tell you. Right? If I would have not been able to answer your question, let's say, I would have said I'm not allowed to talk about that, right? And that gives you as well a closure ki I should not waste my time anymore. I just like keep my head down and prepare rather than wasting time in all of this, right?
Fair enough.
It's so that,
Okay. I think that's really interesting because why I am focusing more on this, because I see a lot of people who are unsure about things and they don't do anything about it. They just ask somebody who is completely unknown to that particular thing. And I think we should take advice from people who are good in that particular topic about which you are talking. Right? And most of the time, what people do is, suppose you have a computer science related question, more specifically in development, suppose application or software development, and you are asking questions to a person who is working in ML.
Right.
So that kind of thing also happens. So I think we should be clear about what we are asking and to whom we are asking that.
I think before asking questions, one should do their research. Like, is this the right person to ask? First point. Second point, there is no shame in asking anybody who knows that matter. Firstly, because he doesn't know you, he'll forget you in the next 10 minutes.
Right.
Secondly, if you get that answer, that would probably be the best answer you can get.
Right.
Best direct answer you can get, right?
That's right.
So that makes it a win-win situation. Even if you would not answer me, you will forget me in the next 10 minutes and I'll move on to some other person or something.
And we are also always conscious about what the other person will think about us.
Right. So, I would like to reassure the fact that nobody has that amount of time to judge you by one message.
Right.
Just message.
But if somebody is taking out time to read your message, add something valuable in that.
Yes.
Ask your questions.
Ask a good decent question. Just don't ask, how should I do this? Like, this should not be a question because there are other platforms made specifically for that.
Right.
But the information that you don't find on that platforms is very welcome to ask.
That's right. Talking more about your internship, Bhagat, you told me an interesting story about how you made it to the pre-placement offer, right?
Right.
So you just gradually skipped that part when you were telling your story and you were moving ahead. So, but I would like to know more about that because I think that is something that can help others as well.
Okay.
The approach that you followed at that point of time, it was not something that was too fancy to do, but I think that is just a basic that can help anyone. Right. So can you please explain or even say tell that story?
Yeah, sure.
How did it?
So when I joined Zomato as an intern, the first and the coolest stuff was their office was a farmhouse that had a swimming pool and a lawn, and everybody used to come, gather, play after their lunch, which was a very cool thing. And I had not seen that I had not even heard of that before. So
Nice.
I used to tell myself, like, maybe this is a startup culture. If not, like, what else is, right? So I used to do an up down from Delhi to Gurgaon, where their farmhouse was, which is, I think, at least 60 kilometers. By the time I reached there, I was exhausted, but nevertheless, I was not exhausted in spirit. So initially I was given, I think it's called the ZFB app, which is Zomato for Business. For example, if you are a business owner on Zomato, you have an app to manage offers and special events and all of that of your restaurant or your business, whatever. So I worked on that. So the biggest turnoff was that was in Objective-C and not in Auto Layout. So I was just dealing with frames here and there. And I had not seen frames before because I was a storyboard guy. Right, remember? So I had not seen frames and I was like, what do I do with this? Like, there was some Y which was being added every time something was changed. So I was like, okay, so I just went on fixed the bugs, touched nothing else.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Then the Zomato app was being remade, the consumer app was being remade into auto layout. So I jumped on that ship after that, after I got a sense of what I was doing.
Okay.
I got familiarized with the UI elements that they use and all of that through that app. So I jumped on that ship. I was basically converting some frame code into auto layout code.
Okay.
So auto layout code I was still manageable because I can visualize constraints. If I put them in storyboard, I can visualize constraints and write them in code. And they have a very slick auto layout extension which helps you do that. Okay, so that was passing on. That was going well until I don't remember exactly, but I broke something.
Okay.
I think it was related to UI activity
Controller.
right? So I broke that stuff. Thankfully, nobody took a pull, but I heard quite a lot for
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Then half of the time went in my exams, which was pretty bad. I was enjoying working at Zomato at that point. So I got another month's extension because I was not. Probably I had not shown the best of my work yet.
Okay.
Because there was this exams thing and up and down and all of that. So I took a chill pill this time because I had nothing to lose. I went on for another month. And then when I didn't have that pressure of, okay, I want to get that offer, I want to be a part of this. Obviously I wanted to, but I relieved myself of that pressure.
Right.
Then I saw that my best work came out. My best relative to that point. So I was working. I simply concentrated my brain on working.
Okay.
So that helped me a lot, which in turn I think pushed them to give me an offer, and I was considered the Zomato material.
So what do you think is the Zomato material? Like, I'm not specifically talking about Zomato, but what do you think they considered at that point that they agreed to offering you a TPO?
Yeah. So I think this can be generalized into a very solid foundational thing.
Okay.
That any of the startups, not Zomato, any of the startups would pick you only if, and again this is my belief, that they don't have to teach you anything.
Okay.
Teach you anything in that sense that if they're confident that you are a quick learner, if given 8 hours you can just implement this and that and whatnot.
Okay.
You can control something yourself. You don't need hand holding basically.
Right.
Second point.
Spoon feeding and anything like that.
Correct. You don't need spoon feeding. You don't need hand holding. You know what you're doing.
Right.
Like you have a sense of how to do it and what to do. And you can adapt wherever you want to. Basically, if I come and tell you, okay, we have to give this presentation tomorrow, which involves Node and all of that stuff, you will be up for the challenge and say, I'll do it.
Right.
Even if you'll not say, I'll do it, and you're given that, you will do it. Right. So I think that sort of adaptability and kind of willingness to learn,
right,
that mindset, they're looking for that mindset.
Okay.
Every skill can be taught.
Right.
If not taught, every skill can be acquired.
That's true.
But that mindset is what they're looking for, which you need to come with. They
Right.
cannot give you that.
Right.
So I think that
I think that comes from your upbringing, or maybe once you get aware about this fact that it is required, then maybe you can acquire it. Maybe.
Yes. I think maybe, but most of the people are agnostic of this thing. Like they're thinking that, okay, we'll do this, we'll get into this, or we'll do that, we'll get into that. Even I've seen I'll not say great, I've seen many competitive programmers fail interviews because of their, like you can say, their approach,
Okay.
not the like a coding approach. That would be fine.
Their approach towards solving a problem.
Solving a problem, maybe solving a problem, or approach towards working in a team,
Okay.
let's say, or approach towards solutioning with everyone, let's say, or they're so engrossed in one skill, they're too deep in one skill that they need a lot of time to get out of that and adjust themselves to something else, right?
Okay. Right.
So that, like, I get that you will design a very fast system with your competitive programming skill, but if that skill doesn't fit into my company's stack, right? So how would you adapt to that,
Right.
So I think that is the breaking point of every CP.
Okay. Nice. So let's continue with where I interrupted you in between. Like you told us about your internship journey.
Right.
And you were just about to talk about things that happened further than.
Right. So I was out of Zomato, like not out. I just ended my internship there. I had newly found money in my bank account, so the first thing I did was Udacity's nano degree. So that time Udacity had some discount running of some half the thing of when you do it in a month or less or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I just went in for it, did that in I think 20 days and just finished it off. Not saying that it's not tough, but you'll get a hang of it.
Okay.
Second thing I did was just I went to college and relaxed, because I'm not saying that you should also do it. Go to college and relax, but I had an offer,
Right.
and so I could afford to be relaxed. Everybody in my college was running after placements. I was also before this, but once I had one thing, I saw that I think this is the best thing I can get right now. So I stuck to that. I was not really studying also. I was average that way. Then when I think in my final year, I applied to a lot more companies.
Okay.
I opened my phone and I applied to every app company that I saw,
Okay.
regardless of whether it is in India, outside India,
Okay.
on Mars, wherever. So I did that. I shot out 86 or 87 cold emails,
Okay.
which were apparently not enough. So I think only 2 of them replied,
Okay.
which were looking for a very senior role. So I had that point that Zomato is the way to go. So that was that way.
So did those companies replied with the other approach, like offering you maybe an internship or something like that, or they just replied you in the sense that we are not really open right now for this particular role? How much experience you hold, according to that we don't have any role. So was they just giving you an acknowledgement about the mail, or were they offering you something in response?
Okay, so I think 40% companies didn't even acknowledge that, okay, this is, and that is why you should not just blindly shoot your email at careers@xyz.com.
Right.
So find technical recruiters and shoot to them. So I think that
Otherwise you'll get an automated response.
right, exactly. So a couple of, I think the rest 40% were like, we're not open to hiring right now. Whenever we are, you can just check our careers page. and I think the rest of them replied, but that did not suit either me or them.
Okay.
So I think that was the case.
Okay.
I think either it was relocation, like we don't provide relocation and all of that, and they're not too keen on hiring entry level engineers also from outside their region.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very big factor as well.
Okay.
So yeah.
What do you think about the current placement scenario? Like we graduated in 2018, right?
18, right?
So at that point of time, there was still this wave that you have to be dependent on your college to get a placement, and still I see that in many of the colleges which are private, or you can say government also, like varieties per se, the students out there are, even at this point of time, they are dependent on the college for placements. Do you think that we need to change our mindset for that, or do you think that that is okay to have that mindset?
Okay.
Because what I believe is, I think that you kind of bound yourself with that dependence, and you don't really try for things that may be much bigger than what you are getting in your college.
Right.
So, what do you think about that?
I think for IITs, NITs, and all of the level 1 colleges, it is pretty straightforward.
Right.
Because the cream of the companies is coming to them to hire them, so they don't have to go anywhere, right?
Right.
And they have a very strong alumni system as well. They have a very strong placement network as well. So I don't think it is sorted for them. They don't have to go anywhere. Most of them do their own startups, so I think that is sorted. Other people are into research, and rest of them are placed. So
Or
they don't have to.
the rest of them are maybe in US or Canada.
Exactly right. They're doing their MS. Like I think they are the most sorted minds after high school.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know. So coming to, I think the major problem is with the third tier and the semi-second tier, you can say, colleges, because second tier also have companies in their colleges for placements. Right. Private colleges and the third tier colleges. Right. So the problem is that we go into a college with a hope of placement. Right. That hope is entirely wrong.
True.
College can facilitate placements.
Right.
That is a fact.
Right.
But if my college stopped doing that, will that college stop running? No. Right?
That's not the case.
So, going into a college with a hope of a placement is wrong entirely. You should be able to, get something for yourself. Right? You should be skilled just enough to say, okay, if not, I'll do this. Like, for example, if I don't get a job tomorrow, I am skilled enough to say I can do a freelancing work. Right?
You get that confidence.
Right. So, rather than bugging my college officer or college placement director or somebody like that, I'd rather spend that time working on a skill that makes me marketable, that makes me unique, let's say, and that can land me a job anywhere.
Right.
And the thing with skills is that you cannot put a cap on it.
True.
Right. So even a person with a non-CS degree, or even a person with no degree, can land a CS job because his skills allow him to do that. Right. So I think it's more about skills rather than my dependence on any placement of like my placement infrastructure or whatever. Right.
But what would you say about, like, we all have been through our college, right? They have some graduation degree and all of those things.
Right.
What do you think if we want to change that mindset, that maybe we can put the college system aside, and what if students right after their 12th grade, they start applying for jobs, not just small work kind of job, actual jobs like development or maybe something else in CS. What do you think? Is that achievable? Is that doable in today's world or not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because the school life that we go through and the kids are going through is not preparing them to face the world. It is just telling people to, learn something from the book and not from outside. Even if I was to, even if I was to ask somebody to get a job right after your high school, it would be content writing or,
Okay.
In very rare cases, technical content writing.
Okay.
Right? College gives you the freedom, right? It gives, because you don't have any ropes attached to studies anymore,
Right.
right?
And nobody is telling you that you have to finish off
Exactly.
this much and
है ना? So you have that freedom mentally and physically to explore other things,
Right.
which you gradually do and will eventually do, right? People still are stuck in books in college, which might be their way of studying or gathering knowledge, but my perspective is that if you don't have a skill, that skill can be, for example, reading some book and getting the most information out of it. That is also a skill,
right.
which like I am not very good at, but other people might be, right? So the whole point of going to college is gathering and developing a skill, which can be marketed enough, or which can be which can be unique enough to get an employer to hire you.
I think that requires a certain level of awareness about the market as well. Like in today's scenario, if somebody is in his or her college and maybe if they are in their second or third year of engineering, then they might be not aware about what is going on in the real IT industry. They get to know all of these things through maybe YouTube, through their seniors,
Right.
or someone like that.
Right.
But the reality could be, somewhat completely different from what they are telling you.
Right.
So how can they access that information being in their college at this point of time?
I think all of the information that is available on the internet is enough for anyone to choose a skill right now. Right? Nobody is on the internet talking about ASP.NET. It was 5 years ago that it was 5 years ago that it died, right? After Python came or JavaScript came or whatever.
Right.
Nobody's talking about it anymore. Right. So, if you're blind enough to do it right now as well, except for the people who have been doing it for 20 years, then you don't know how to use the internet, sadly.
Right.
If you type anything on the internet and there are tons of links available, tons of people talking about it, you automatically, I think, come to know in this day and age what is trending, what is not.
True.
Right? And I think college students are experts in doing that. They know best sources are college seniors. If not that, Twitter. If not that, LinkedIn posts. And even if not that, then I think even if I search how to make backend, right? Google will autocomplete it to in Java, in Python,
Node.js,
in JavaScript, in Node.js, whatever, right? So
that's true.
I have to be dumb enough to do that, but okay, let's just say I did that. So then also I'll get some very good answers.
Right.
If a machine can tell it, I think people are smart enough to recognize that.
But some people are only stuck with the things like, from where should we start? I think you can start from anywhere.
That is the most cliche question.
Yeah.
Like, where should I start? It is not.
Should I choose mobile development? Should I choose web development? Should I choose AI, blockchain, and whatnot?
I think most people get stuck in this loop and they get stuck forever. Like, where should I start? And, their third year also goes and their fourth year also goes.
They still ask the same question.
They're still asking. I was thinking of doing that, but
It never happened.
Yes. So my perspective on that is start wherever you want to. Just start. Even
Don't
if you
ask,
write that,
don't ask that much. Just first do something, then maybe you can ask somebody.
like
that.
you can weigh the pros and cons of a tech stack before starting. That
Right.
makes perfect sense. For example, Python is slower, so
Right.
I should learn JavaScript. Or JavaScript is single-threaded, so I should learn. I don't know if Python is single-threaded. I don't know if it runs on threads also, but like you get the gist,
Yeah.
right? So the right question is to weigh the pros and cons of picking something before starting.
Mhm.
Not ki where should I start? Obviously, you will start with a hello world, and then
Right.
you will be introduced to variables, states, for loops, these loops, whatever and whatnot. That is the most obvious way to go. And for and if people still have question, where should I start? If you are starting, let's say JavaScript, right?
Okay.
If you just simply Google JavaScript roadmap, you will find tons of links. If you
Right.
just simply Google Python roadmaps,
Right.
so roadmap is basically how should you proceed in order of
Right.
whatever you are trying to learn. So you will find tons and tons of roadmaps. They may be opinionated that you should learn this before this and this before that, but that doesn't even matter because you have to anyways learn everything,
Exactly.
right? So yeah,
And please don't fall for videos like learn JavaScript in 2 minutes.
that doesn't work.
Right?
If JavaScript could be learned in 2 minutes, everybody in the world would know JavaScript right now.
Right.
But that is not the case. I don't think so. That is the case.
Like on internet, there is a plenty of content about all those things that we're talking about. But you would find that 60% of the content is just taking you nowhere. Like they give you roadmap, they give you something else as well, but they never tell you to start it now. Rather than wasting time in watching other videos about how can I start learning Python, then I watch a video maybe on how to start learning JavaScript.
Right.
Then after 5 or 6 minutes, I was watching how to start iOS development. So once we are, you can say exhausted with these many videos, we don't start anything.
Right.
We just switch off our laptop and go to sleep.
Right. So I think in that case, the best way to start would be make a project. Right. You make a project, just search everything as it comes. Right. For example, how to start your server in Node. You will get 5 commands, just run them, like without thinking anything. Then the next thing might come would be basically, let's say, how to declare variables in JavaScript. Then you learned about variables. For example, then you're learning how to do a for loop in JavaScript.
Right.
Then you're learning about a for loop. Gradually and eventually, you will learn everything, just not in order, but you will get there.
Right.
Sort of a thing. And once you have a gist of, let's say, whatever you're trying to learn, that roadmap will start to make sense.
Right.
So I think that is fine. You should just make a project about it. Like just make a small project about it. For example, I'll just print hello world, or take my name from that URL endpoint in the param, whatever it is called, and just print hello Bhagat. Right. So you'll learn 3-4 things only by doing this, like how to read those params, how to transfer that to your response, and all of that stuff.
Right.
So I think it makes a lot of sense to start learning by making projects.
True. Right. It should be more of like project oriented and not like just learning
Theory doesn't I
work that.
I don't know, but it may lead you somewhere, but at
Most
the
of
end
the
you
time
have
it
to
isn't.
type it out.
Right.
You
That's
don't
true.
have to just keep looking at it in a book. You have to type it out.
So Bhagat, talking about your social presence,
Okay.
you have a name in iOS community for what you do on rebendelic.com. Like you are a text, the content editor or
Right. Tech editor.
tech editor, right?
Right.
Sorry for that. So you are a tech editor with Raventlic.com.
Right.
You have been working for how long?
I think 4 years.
4 years now.
Right.
So how has it been that journey for 4 years till this point, and how did you land that particular role in Raventlic.com? Because I think many people would be interested to know about that as well. How did you
Right.
came across this opportunity? How did you got interviewed and all of those stuff? So
Right.
would you please tell us about that?
Sure. So Raventlic always publishes an article on whenever they're looking for authors, tech editors, for Android and iOS or for other platforms in
Okay.
which they are Flutter and game development.
Okay.
So they always publish an article that we are looking for people. One fine day of my third year college, I think, or fourth year, I don't remember exactly. I was done with everything. I just happened to read that
Okay.
article and I thought, why not apply? I had nothing to lose, right? So
Right.
just was shooting a blind shot.
Right.
So, very surprisingly, all they ask for is skills. And even if a person like me who had the skill but not the relevant industry experience,
Right.
they're quite open to add me in their team. So, so they have a tryout. So I tried out for the tech editor position. So basically, they have some guides and they'll want you to edit that article according to that guide, and however that goes, will decide your presence in the team or out of the team.
Okay.
By God's grace, that went very well.
Okay.
And I was in the iOS tech editing team all of a sudden, which is, I think, good. So, yeah, I went through this. The experience has been extraordinary.
Right.
Because you get to interact with the world's smartest people. Many of them are Apple engineers. Many of them work fully towards building Raventlic. Many of them work part time. It's all a great, a bucket of knowledge,
Okay.
which never ends. Right? You get to work on different not tech stacks. You get to work on different topics. For example, I worked on a topic where I got introduced to a very brilliant networking library called Moya.
Okay.
So that is built on top of Alamofire.
Okay.
I didn't know.
So
of
how is it different from Alamofire?
Okay, so Moya takes an enum based approach
Okay.
of building a network request. So whenever we build a network request, we are like, network request is this, then we add the HTTP body, we add the params and all
Right.
of that, right? So Moya takes an enum,
Okay.
in which you can assign those variables very verbosely.
Okay.
So I didn't know about. I think it's made by people who made that app called Artsy.
Okay.
So it's made by those people and open sourced by them. So it under the hood it uses Alamofire.
And under the hood, Alamofire is yours.
Yes. And yeah. So that I got to know about that. I got to work on an article which supports picture-in-picture on all iOS, on all Apple platforms.
Okay, that's nice.
iPad, iOS, tvOS.
Okay.
If that's supported. All of the platforms, whichever is supported.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work on one article which was security related.
Okay.
Security of an iOS app. I got to work on one article which supposedly worked on beacons, Bluetooth beacons.
Okay.
Right? So the experience has been I get to learn a lot, which stuff I would have never searched on my own. Right? I would have never gotten to know about Moya if I would have not gotten that tutorial to edit. Right? I would never have gone and searched beacon tutorial or some stuff like that.
So that has basically broadened your knowledge base in iOS as well. Not just a
Right.
gig that you are doing along with the job,
Correct.
but that is also helping you to learn new things.
Yes, correct. And of course, like people get paid for it. I also get paid for it. Uh, Ray is kind enough to send holiday cards every year to each of the team members across
And
the
what
world.
is it exactly like?
So basically, it's a holiday card. Uh, I think around Christmas and
Okay.
New Year's.
Okay.
At the time, people in US have their holidays. He is very kind enough to do that every year, in which he sends a personal handwritten message to
Nice.
everyone on the team and a calendar along with it, with everyone's picture on it.
That's really cool.
There's a mosaic of very small tiles of every team member's picture on it. So I think that's a very kind gesture to do. Yeah, so that is really nice. I got an opportunity to be on a book team,
Mhm.
which is not iOS, but it is related to Git.
Okay.
So I published, I didn't publish that. I edited that. So
In some way, you have contributed to it.
yes, I edited that. So that also got published. Yes.
I have one interesting question from what you just told me about your experience with RayBattech.com so far. What has been that one thing that has made you stay with the team? Like for last 4 years, what is that one reason that you are still with RayBattech.com? Because I see a lot of people who don't get, they don't have the same zeal than when they join a particular thing, and after 1 or 2 years, the zeal goes off, right? So, what has been that one factor that has made you think about it that I should be here with them,
Okay.
or I should in some other way stay connected with them?
Okay. So I think if I had to choose only one factor, it would be the things that I get to learn from people.
Okay.
So since it is a fully remote team, people from all time zones exist on that Discord server. People keep chatting about what they know, what they don't. If I don't know anything, 10 people will come and say we'll help.
Okay.
It's just the learning ability that I'm getting and the community bonding that has been there.
Okay.
So although I'm not very active on that Discord, but whenever I get time, I read messages and I get so much out of just reading messages that wants me to stay there.
Okay.
And
how-
money as well.
That's true.
Just reading.
Everyone needs money. Right. But the thing is that I think this thing is also helping you out for last 4 years in one way or the other, in other opportunities as well, right? So would you like to share that experience as well? Like there might be some case in which you got some attraction from the, or you can say heat from the interviewer just because you have contributed or you have been contributing with.
Right. So first of all, I got to work on that book thing, which I would never have gotten otherwise. Second, I got to mentor an awesome batch of bootcamp students when everybody was stuck in pandemic in their homes. So Ravenlink decided to start a free of cost bootcamp for around, I think, 40 students all around the world who were passionate enough to learn something new, because some of them had lost their jobs, some of them were going to lose their jobs, or some of them couldn't go out to do their jobs.
So it's about last year, like 2020?
It was last year, yes. So it was just 3 months of exhaustive bootcamp, which took them from zero to a junior level role. And I think most of them got a job in IT or slash iOS, slash Android. We had an Android bootcamp also, in Android or iOS otherwise. So that was a very good experience. I got to meet people from all around the world. Although I had to wake up at 7 in the morning, but that soon diminished.
Right.
So yeah. Also the interviewer thing, right? So I think interviewers get more intrigued by that and ask you more tricky and difficult questions if you are on that panel. It acts as a very good conversation starter. I think that I work on this team. Obviously, you must have heard of it.
Right.
obviously everyone knows about it.
Right.
So it acts as a very good conversation starter, but not so much in interviews.
So has there been any case in which you have just removed this thing from your
No,
resume?
I've never removed that.
Okay.
Irrespective of whatever I'm doing, I
Okay.
never removed that. I've always told people that I work there. Even when taking interviews right now, I always tell people that I'm doing this.
This same kind of thing happened to me, but I just removed that thing, like which was obstructing me in a way to
Okay.
clear an interview. What happened was in the very beginning of my career, like when I was looking for my first IELTS job, I was going for off campus because there was a story like because of which I didn't sit for the placements in college. So when I was going to the companies outside college, I used to tell them that I create videos on iOS, and they used to look at my channel and right in front of me. Then they got this impression that this guy knows way more than a normal or maybe a beginner guy,
Okay.
which was true. But they took it like way beyond that, and they were
Right.
asking me things which
You're not even
2
heard
or
of.
3 years experienced IELTS developer would know. So it was impacting my performance. That's why I just removed. I was not vocal about that in the upcoming interviews and that. So,
Maybe it's just that you're creating videos on a topic you just learned yesterday.
yeah, that might be the case. Like that was the case back then. Like I was not, super good with iOS
Right.
when I was starting off. I think everybody starts from some basic topic.
Alright. I think that is the case with me as well. When I get a new article to edit, I don't know. I don't specifically know that article or what that does. I read about it.
Right.
I go through the docs, or if there's some other articles published by other people on it, because they dump it down for you, and then I start to read the article which I'm given to get a sense of what is it doing and what is it not doing, and then I suggest some edits and all of that stuff. But you're right, you might be editing or you might be creating a video on something that you just learned the last night.
Right.
So that, I think that depends on interviewer's perspective as well. Maybe you were unlucky with the 3 or 4 people that you were interviewing.
Like in the very beginning, it was not a good thing for me. In current situation, I can brag about it
Right.
in sitting in an interview. So it's like conditional.
Double-edged sword.
Right. So Bhagat, what are your future plans with your career? Like I would not say 5-year plans, but what are your next 1 or 2 year plans with your career?
Okay.
Where do you see yourself? It's not like a interview question. It is like a bro to bro question. How do you approach your life in your career?
Okay. So at this point, I am very comfortable in what I am doing at work.
Okay.
I get to make features. I get to engineer stuff. I get to build frameworks. Like basically everything you can ask for
Okay.
from work.
Okay.
And with a good structured balance as well. In my free time, I'm working on a design system kind of a thing.
Okay.
That is also a work thing, but I just work on it in my free time because I like to work on it.
Okay. What is it specifically like? If you can explain that in
Okay.
brief.
So basically, it is a design system for all the UI components
Okay.
that will be present in the app.
Okay.
If there are design libraries,
Mm-hmm.
somewhat like material design, right? So they have just standardized everything, right?
Okay.
Like blacks are of 5 shades and
Right.
whites are of 6 shades and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that, and the main motive is to introduce consistency in the app,
Okay.
right?
Got it.
So that I'm doing that. Secondly, I think I would like to explore more.
Mm-hmm.
I have not explored 50Y yet, which I'm very regretful about. I don't get the time, but yeah,
Right.
that is a very nice piece of tech.
Mm-hmm.
I recently started watching some videos about it. So next
Okay.
up on my list is that I have to learn some more stuff. Basically, I think that never stops.
Right.
So I want to study some more. I want to, go deep down into some of the subjects that were of my interest back in college,
Mm-hmm.
or I didn't have in college, or I want to study now. Like I want to study now. I want to go into some. I'll basically do a move or something like that. And I don't have any plans of becoming senior IAS engineer or stuff like that. I just want to learn and be good at whatever I'm doing.
Okay.
I think that is the bottom line.
I think you said that you are at a state where you can look back what your interests were maybe, which you just skipped at that point of time, and now you can pursue them.
Right. Maybe I can.
Like it sounds like that.
Right. Maybe I can buy a PS5 and start playing games.
Right. That could be the thing.
That could be one of those things.
That's nice. So Bhagat, I think we should wrap it up here. And do you have any closing thoughts for the people who are listening or maybe watching this podcast, and specifically for Indian students, since the story that we have currently is more of like related to the people out there who are living in India, right? But yeah, I would say it could be generic, but more specifically for students.
So I would like to say, never stop learning, keep building projects, go to hackathons, learn new stuff every day. Maybe even if it is like 5 lines of code, not even code, just learn something new, some philosophy by some philosopher or something like that. Just don't stop learning. This is the prime of your life. Don't waste it. Just keep on building stuff. And yeah, don't depend on your money.
Thanks for saying that. I completely resonate with that. So Bhagat, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I think that in the coming years we would be able to record more such deep podcasts like this one, which is, I think, completely, it was a spontaneous one. Right? We didn't have a script for it, and it was all about you.
All from the heart.
Yeah, out from the heart, you can say. So thank you so much for that once again.
My pleasure.
Okay, then bye guys.